Good morning, church. Thank you, Fang, for the great communion and throwing me under the bus. But it gives me a good lead into my sermon title, which is Warriors of God. We're finishing up James chapter 5 today. And Chris kindly just told me that my email didn't go out in the notes, so he sent that on last week's leaders meeting, so you do have it now. Thanks, Chris. I'm an old guy, like you send an email, you went, I sent you that email, and it's still in your drafts. You know what I mean? Okay. Warriors of God. When you think of a warrior, what do you think of? Rambo. Okay, man. I didn't know you were that old. Okay. Maybe if you're a Kiwi, being an All Black. Maybe if you're a Lord of the Rings fan like me, maybe Aragorn or, Boromir or something like that. Maybe you're the new generation Harry Potter. Katniss from Hunger Games. All right. Maybe when you think about spiritual warrior, you think about King David or Joshua. We all go, yeah, I want to be a warrior. And then somebody like me starts discipling you and challenging you, you go, I mean, honestly, can you imagine Aragorn from Lord of the Rings? Gandalf challenged me. He said I was proud. That's the problem we have as Christians. We think being a Christian should all be fluff and cotton wool. And you know why? Because we have forgotten who the enemy is. Ephesians 6:10 says, finally be strong in the Lord and his mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. When you join the army, you do not go in for 8 weeks of counseling and fluffiness and sleeping in 5-star hotel. They give you such a hard time that it prepares you so that when you go to war, you will not die. And that's against a physical enemy that struggles with insecurity and at times a desire to actually hurt the other side. Things that Satan and his demons never struggle with. There is no compassion in them. Their greatest joy is to do you harm. They are habitual murderers, mass murderers. And some of us, to be honest, and this is the last chapter of James, just need to toughen up. And the problem with Christianity today is they make it all about, it's all just fluff and cotton wool. It's okay, do whatever you want. And preachers dare not say the truth from the pulpit, let alone in a one-on-one conversation. There is an intense struggle. Some of you feel it. Some of you are feeling it right now because of your exams. Let me encourage you. This is the least amount of pressure you will ever go through in your life, even if you are in your exam period. How about when you have 3 kids and your boss says, if you don't get this project done, I will fire you, and you haven't slept for 3 nights because your kids have kept you awake? That's the reality of this life. You know why so many people's lives go badly later on in life? Because they never learn to be tough when they're young. Most people we inherit as people that become Christians are weak and fluffy and untough. It is our job as mentors, as ministers, to toughen you up for the fight of your life so that you will die saved, not lost and bitter. You need to embrace this concept of being a spiritual warrior. The reason the Jews killed Jesus is because they wanted a physical warrior like Aragorn. Because it's easier to succeed in the world than it is in the spirit world. It is easier to get a career than be a minister. It is easier to have a family than it is to be a Bible talk leader. Why? Satan wants you to focus on those things. Well, why is Christianity so hard? Because it's a spiritual issue, and we are unspiritual beings. Point number 1, worldly warriors. Pursuing wealth kills you from the inside out. You see, we look at wealthy people and go, they look so good. What we forget to put is, in brackets, on the outside. James 5, verse 1. Now listen, you rich people, and everybody in this room is rich. Nobody in this room right now is poverty. We're not. You go speak to some of the Nigerians or some of the Indians or Tim's dad from Egypt. They know what poverty was and is. We are all rich here. Said, now listen, you rich people, weep and wail because of the misery that is coming upon you. Your wealth has rotted, and moths have eaten your clothes. Your gold and silver are corroded. Their corrosion will testify against you and eat your flesh like fire. You have hoarded wealth in the last days. You know, people chase wealth instead of health and die young. Most people chase health today and don't chase spiritual health, and so die lost. Putting your job, your career, your hobbies above your family will destroy your family. People understand that. If you are devoted to your career and ignore your wife and your kids, they will be bitter and often leave you later on in life. Putting these things above God will destroy your salvation, and you will rot from the inside out. Too often when we become Christians, we go, there's a big hole in my life. I'm missing something. And we become Christians because we know that hole is God. And then somewhere along the line we go, you know, this praying business, getting up every morning and trying to be spiritual, it's really hard work. So I'm going to go back and fill that hole with being unspiritual. And then we go, God doesn't work. That's not true. You just didn't embrace that you have an enemy, and being spiritual is incredibly hard. Anything worth doing in life is incredibly hard. Marriage is hard. Bringing up kids is hard. Staying fit is hard. Doing a conference is hard. Everything is hard. Who taught you the concept that life was going to be easy? You know, even in the rich man and the Lazarus, it's a whole story about this man pursued wealth. He had it all until he died. If you live to 120, that is not even 1/100th of the existence of your life. It's not. It's not. So you go, well, I succeeded for the first 0.0000001% of my life. And then it went bad. That's the reality. In the world's eyes, men make it because they have wealth. Really? How many rich people do you know that you really want to be like? How many rich people do you really know that you go, that person I really know well and I want to imitate their life? So why are you impressed by that? What is so impressive about having money? Now, most rich people are as stingy and ungenerous as they come. They really are. They're miserable. They go to a top restaurant, and if there's one thing wrong, they explode at you because they demand everything to be perfect. We went to an unbelievable meal last night. Jasmine's mum, Gemma, treated us all to this Manila Filipino banquet. And we get there, and the tables have no plates and forks on them. There's just banana leaves. And they start putting the food on the middle of the table. Can you imagine a rich person, well, where's the forks? Where's my plate? They would have ruined the whole night in their arrogance of their wealth. Manny looked at him and went, I've died and gone to heaven. You think about the rich people in this world. Some of them are incredibly talented and give us some incredible joy in our life, like singing. Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson. Would you want their life? Not in a million years. Lance Armstrong. Oh, you won the Tour de France, possibly the hardest race to win in the entire world. Found out he was cheating. You want to be Lance Armstrong right now? What about some of I was looking at people who went after wealth thinking it would give them happiness. And I found a story about Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage did National Treasure and all those sort of things. He made $150 million between 1996 and 2011 and went bankrupt. Because he never had enough. He wanted more and more. He bought several supercars, rare jewelry, a shark, a crocodile, 2 king cobras, at least 1 dinosaur skull, a collection of pygmy shrunken heads, a private jet, and a pyramid tombstone in a New Orleans ceremony, and didn't keep track of his spending and went bankrupt. Now you know why he does all those extra movies now that aren't very good. You know what I mean? You see, you can never have enough in materialism. Why does anybody really need the next iPhone? Really? I mean, why? And now what are they? $3,000? I mean, how often do you use your iPhone out of phoning people and looking at the internet? I was talking to somebody, it was Jessica Salvador last night. Somebody was using an iPhone actually said, oh, I miss iPhones. And she said, what phone do you have? It looked like an iPhone. And she said something like, well, it's according to my budget. And the truth of it is, that's where we need to live. Because when you live according to your budget, then you're happy. Not when you want more and more and more. You know, God will destroy the worldly warrior. Take a look around you. Where are they? Everybody that was rich 100 years ago, where are they? Where are they? James 5:4. Look, the wages you have failed to pay the workmen who mowed your fields are crying out against you. These people were rich, and yet they didn't even pay their workers. And these were Christians. The cries of the harvesters have reached the ears of the Lord Almighty. You have lived on earth in luxury and self-indulgence. You have fattened yourselves in the day of slaughter. You have condemned and murdered innocent men who are not opposing you. He's talking about Christians here. He's going, this is how it starts. You get so gritty, you're not even paying people. And then it says, it leads to you murdering people. That's what greed does. Once greed has you, it's uncontrollable. Because you can never have enough. How do you go from being a Christian to murdering people? Greed. I don't know what happened. Maybe they thought it was easier just not to kill him than not pay him because he owed him so much back wages. I mean, that's ridiculous. See, unless you get hold of your sin, it's like you're walking on the top of a mountain and you know, there's steep cliffs. As soon as you put your foot to one side, you just go down and you roll all the way down. That's why it's called a narrow path. We need God. We need the Bible. We need discipling. Why? To keep on the narrow path because it is so easy to fall off. So easy to fall off. God hears the prayers of our unrighteousness. Sometimes you go, why is my boss just got all this money and he seems so happy and he's bragging about his car? Believe me, God's got his number. You don't need to worry about it. God will show everybody humility. I was reading this story about a lady called Elizabeth Holmes, an American inventor and entrepreneur, became the youngest self-made female billionaire in 2015 after our healthcare technology. Her company was valued immediately at $9 billion. Later, after some investigation by the federal government and some misleading information that was found, she now has zero wealth and can no longer work for her own company. It's only 2018. She was viewed in Time magazine as one of the most 100 influential people in 2015. Don't get deceived by people's immediate glory. Christianity is for the long haul, not for the flash in the pan. Don't be deceived by the world. The world won't fill your heart with joy and love. It may consume it with other things, but if it does, it'll get numb. The only thing that will fulfill you is a relationship with God. Let me just encourage you with your exams at the moment. Whether you fail them or not, God still loves you and so do we. Your parents might not. But that says something right there, doesn't it? Is my love for my children defined on whether they pass their exams or not? I hope not. Geesh. Chances is, whatever you pass your university, you may not end up in that career anyway. I just want my kids to be happy and spiritual. Why? Because then they'll turn everybody else around them happy and spiritual. They'll have a great marriage, have great children. I don't care if they have a great job. What is a great job? It's amazing. Kids really have this nailed down, right? You have a 4-year-old. No 4-year-old goes, I want to be a manager director of a company. I was in a toy shop the other day, and you know what they sell in toy shops? Dump trucks. Garbage trucks. You know what? Kids buy them and go, you know why? I see that garbage guy in the morning. He's happy. He's having fun. He's jumping off this cool lorry. He's grabbing those bags. It's for naught. I want to be a garbage man, Dad. Why? Because he's happy. The kid associates that job with being happy. Where along the line did we teach our kids that happiness has no value? Point 2, spiritual warriors. Patient spiritual warriors. Brothers, until the Lord's coming. See how the farmer waits for the land to yield its crop, its valuable crop, and how patient he is for the autumn and the spring rains. You too be patient and stand firm, because the Lord's coming is near. You know, being patient is bearing provocation, misfortune, annoyance, delay, hardship. Not getting ticked off when you don't get your way. Who here likes to be patient? It's amazing. It's one of the curses of a young person. I want my girlfriend now. I want my job now. I want to get my exams now. I want fast food now. I want this. We have a whole generation that can't cook. Eat in half an hour? I'm hungry now. I don't mean to throw you on the bus, Obed, but amen. All I know is that Gomez and Gomez, or whatever it is, earn a lot of money out of you. Okay, all right. Only joking, okay. I can't lift you up every week and not jab at you too, Obed. I mean, you know, favoritism and all that. But it's true. We've got a whole generation that don't even know how to cook because they can't be bothered to cook for half an hour. That's ridiculous. What are you going to do if your favorite 5 restaurants go bust? I'll move to America. Okay, I know. What are you struggling to be patient in? Bearing fruit? Helping someone become a Christian? That's why I always talk about just die saved. If my best friends or whatever, they become Christians on their deathbed and go to heaven, that's a bit of a wasted life in some ways, but that's all I care about. You've given up on your parents because they didn't respond to you for the first 3 years of your Christian life. What about finishing your studies? Sometimes you fail and have to go back. You know what? It's really great in developing your character. It's really great in developing your character failure. People that succeed all the time, when they fail, haven't got a clue what to do. I don't know her name, but there was that girl that was the famous UFC fighter that was in a couple of movies. Oh, great. She lost, could never get it back. Why? She'd never failed before. She'd never been beaten. Her confidence was shattered at one failure. Why do we always say Muhammad Ali is the greatest? Because he came back again and again and again. Falling down's not a bad thing. Not getting up, that's an issue. What about maturing your character? Isn't that the horrible one? You know, I asked Fang to move here and train for the ministry. She didn't know what that meant. She went, yeah. We've been doing the videos together, and I appreciate, basically she's done them. I just know the order of everybody becoming a Christian and everything like this. But when you do a project, it reveals the character. And this is what I found out. Fang went to Harvard and graduated. Anybody else gone to Harvard here? No, okay, didn't think so. All right. That is a seriously impressive person. Yet her social skills are lacking. Why? Nobody's loved her in a deep way to tell her things that are hurting her and the people around her. That's today's world. Your parents are more interested in you getting a degree than actually knowing how to talk to people. Which means the only job you'll ever get in is a room on your own in an office somewhere where you won't talk to people. That's a horrible life. I'll tell this about Fang. She's a spiritual warrioress. I'm not gentle when it comes to sin and training people, especially when I've only got 9 months with you to go and send you out to China, possibly one of the hardest places in the world to evangelize. So if you come in for 9 months training rather than 5 years training, like Chris and these people, we have a group called Ministers and Missionaries. It's a great group, but they walk away with plasters, okay, on their hearts. Why? The worst feeling in the world is being out in the mission field and failing and not knowing why. That's horrendous. Having a bad marriage, wanting to fix it and not know why. I'd rather know why. That's why we're training them, so they don't fail. But are they strong-hearted? Yeah. And like Naomi, I can challenge Fang and she'll go, but her feet don't move. She may waver. That's a real warrior. You know, so many of us go through hard struggles. Some people go through hard struggles without even having God. You know, as the party last night, and I don't know Gemma's life, but what I did see was all these pictures about her and Jasmine. There were some great pictures, but you also saw a mother that really struggled. Took her to Universal World, and all those things you want to do for your kids. But I don't get the impression she had masses of support. There are people out there doing it far tougher than we are. I saw a thing on Facebook from some brother in some country, and he goes, "How I feel my life is going." And it's this YouTube thing of somebody dressed up smashing a stick or something. I'm like, really? You think you're in America and your life is, you're single and what's happening? Maybe your girlfriend finished you and you think life is hard? Life's not hard. We just have a soft generation. You know, spiritual warriors don't grumble. James 5:9, don't grumble against each other, brothers, or you will be judged. The judge is standing at the door. You know, every time you grumble against somebody, just imagine God standing there. You know, when you have kids, and we had twins, and sometimes we'd find them arguing, as kids do, and then mum would walk in and go, because they were suddenly aware of a greater presence with the power to discipline you. If you had that view about your mouth and God standing next to you, maybe you would change. You know, when we think about the great movies, they're called Braveheart, not Grumbleheart, right? You ever notice that? Let's go see this movie, Grumbleheart. I can't fight the English. It's cold in Scotland. I haven't got my shoes. My makeup's not right. That's what we call Braveheart, Gladiator. You know, that grumbling is discontent. To complain suddenly, life's not fair. Even the world knows it. What do they say? If you grumble at the world, eat a Snickers. All right, that's the advert, right? What are they saying? Deal with it. Do something about it. I don't know if Snickers cures grumbling. I don't like Snickers. But what they are saying is there's a solution to grumbling. What are you grumbling about? I feel lonely. I was talking to one brother. I said, he goes, it's really hard in the church. I just don't relate to people. I go, well, considering there are 25 different nations in this church, you're going to find some people you don't relate to. And before he launched into it, I said, what do you think God is trying to teach you? See, God puts us in situations where we have to learn to be more like Jesus. In the world, you just hang out with people you naturally get on with, which allows you to be selfish. Okay? But God wants you to save the whole world. So he's going to put the whole world in your life. So if you're a little bit racist and you don't know it, God will put somebody of that race in your life to expose it. If you don't like kids, he'll all of a sudden put you sitting next to people with kids. If you don't like old people like me, he'll put you next to me. Because God wants you to learn to love as many different people as possible. But do you walk around the church and go, I just feel lonely and nobody relates to me? How do you think God feels about this world? Why did God create so many different nations? Different colors, different sizes. God just goes, I love variety. Don't you? You go to a buffet. I mean, who wants to go to an incredible buffet or a place that only does one meal? You go, I want to taste life. God goes, I want to taste life. I like them this big and this small and this wide and this thin and this color and this hair out here. He goes, I love the human race. It's amazing. I love the variety of the different types of people. Why don't you get off your horse of culturalism and start to enjoy other different nations? And for some of us, we need to even love our own nations. You know, I don't like Africans and I'm African, and I don't like Australians and I'm Australian. Well, they gave birth to you, so get used to it. You are one. If you don't like them, change them. Hey, some of you go, I don't like China. Well, let's go change it. Get baptized and come on a mission team and we'll do something about it. But we won't grumble, because that would be sin. You know, what is the solution to all this loneliness? Well, we just imitate Jesus. 1 Peter 2:21. To this you are called, because Christ suffered for you, leaving you an example that you should follow in his steps. He committed no sin, no deceit was found in his mouth. When they hurled their insults at him, he did not retaliate. When he suffered, he made no threats. Instead, he entrusted himself to him who judges justly. Jesus did not respond. This is the easiest way to resolve an argument. Okay? If I hurt Kerry, which I sometimes do, unfortunately. Okay. Sorry about that, honey. And Kerry then gets mad at me and goes, how dare you? And then I get upset at her because I'm obviously in sin because I've already hurt her. Then she gets upset at me. Then 5 days later, we speak again. That's how it is in the world. That's how marriages function in the world. But if I'm sinful and rude to Kerry, and she goes, I still love you, and turns the other cheek. About 2 hours later, I'm like, I am such a sinner. I am so sorry. Hopefully it takes me quicker than 2 hours, but I mean, by her not reacting, it makes me able to focus on my sin. And then as a result, there's no argument back and forward. I've become humble. Kerry has been more godly, and we move on. If somebody offends you, entrust it to God. You playing God and imparting justice on them at that moment in time will only make the situation worse, not work. Amen. The other thing, when it comes to feeling loved, just love. Proverbs 11:25, a generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. That's what's amazing about mums. Carmen, Kira, Kerry, Margot. They spend their life refreshing their kids, washing their clothes. You remember on the conference, you've got to take your own sheets, brothers, okay, and pillowcases, okay. But they spend their whole life refreshing their kids' lives, and then their kids give back to them. That's a principle you learn as a parent. But as a single person, we need to deal with some of these selfishness. I'm going to tell you a pet hate of mine, okay, that I think it's a pet hate of a lot of people who are scared to deal with it. Being in somebody's company and they get on their phone and they play video games. That is so selfish. To be in a room, you're all sitting around and you're on a video game. Or even worse, they go into their bedroom and do it. Do you honestly think Jesus would do that? It's all about relationships. There's nothing wrong with having video games, have guys around and do. But this whole concept of a whole generation that is more attached to its phone than other human beings, even while you are with somebody. What does that end up doing? You get on the bus, you don't evangelize, you get on your phone. You go to class, instead of building relationships with your classmates, you get on your phone. Let's call it what it is. It is self-indulgent sin that needs to be dealt with. Those same people get on their phones and do pornography. Why? Because it's an addiction. It's an addiction. Do you want to spend your life being married to a beautiful wife like I have, who loves me and I can encourage, or do you want to be married to your phone? Some of us already are. Persevering spiritual warriors. James 5:10. Brothers, as an example of patience in the face of suffering, take the prophets who spoke the name of the Lord. As you know, we consider blessed those who have persevered. You've heard of Job's perseverance and have seen what the Lord finally brought about. The Lord is full of compassion and mercy. Now, this is a really wild story, okay? Job does nothing wrong, right? Satan goes, I want to prove something to you, God. This guy is unrighteous. So God goes, do what you will with him. He ain't going to break. And then God allows Satan to smash this guy's life unbelievably. His family die, he gets swords, he loses all his property and all of his wealth. And then Job goes, I came into the world with nothing, I left with nothing. He has his struggles, but he goes, God is still God. And in the end, God blesses him for his righteousness. It's the first book written in the Bible, before Genesis. And what does it say here? God is full of compassion and mercy. You go, well, I wouldn't be feeling like God is full of compassion and mercy if I was Job. That's because we have this entitled life that everything is going to go well in our life. God is about character development. God is about getting us to heaven, about us being true spiritual warriors and not grumbling under pressure when things go wrong. It's a test of your character. It is actually a badge, a privilege. Right at the beginning of James, it goes, consider it pure joy when you undergo a trial. You are worthy. You know, when people are picked for special forces, there's that movie about Bin Laden, okay, was captured and everything. They put those guys up there as special forces, go, these are the guys that did it. On Judgment Day, there's going to be a line, I think. He goes, these are the guys that went into China and brought down the forces of evil in China. This is the special forces. This is the special forces of Cambodia. These are the spiritual warriors of Laos, of Vietnam. Ned's going to be there. Of the Philippines, of Madagascar, of the Solomon Islands, of Papua New Guinea. These are the people and the heroes. These are the ones that struggled like Job when everything went bad and still remained faithful. Unless you are in a lifestyle that trains you for that, you will never be that. We have to get ourselves out of today and focus on much more than tomorrow. Third point, seek the ultimate warrior. James 5, verse 13. He should pray. Is anyone happy? Let him sing songs of praise. Is any one of you sick? He should call the elders of the church to pray over him and anoint him with oil in the name of the Lord. And the prayer offered in faith will make a sick person well. The Lord will raise him up. If he has sinned, he will be forgiven. God goes, doesn't matter where you're at. I mean, this is such an encouraging time. So you got trouble? Get down on your knees and pray. Why? It works. You've sinned? Confess it and he'll forgive. Move on, move on, move on, move on. When you see the special forces, you see them literally. You got a bullet in the leg. Not a problem. Move on. Have my arm shot off. No problem. Okay, move on. There's this real attitude of get up, go for it again. Get up, go for it again. I always say this. The Rocky movies aren't exactly the most deepest movies in the entire world. Yet they are some of the most popular movies in the entire world. Because he gets up and he goes, and he gets up and he goes, and he gets up and he goes. The great thing about Christianity is today is the first day of the rest of your life. God keeps no record of wrongs. He's only interested in what you will do tomorrow. Yeah, well, this was the worst spiritual week of my life, the last 7 days. Well, thank goodness it's over then. What about tomorrow? You know, are you happy? Great. If you're June, sing songs. You ever figured that out? Why does June love to sing? Because he's happy. Why don't people sing? Because they're miserable. Singing will make you happy. Go to God in prayer. You know, we're going to have a great conference. I'm so looking forward. It's our first conference. We're going to have so much fun. That's one of the big things we're really making decisions to. We're going to get there. There is going to be no stress. If you see something broken, fix it. Get some tape and, I don't know, chewing gum and just fix it for everybody. If this falls down, pick it up. It's your job. It's everybody's job. We're going to have an incredible time. We're going to have incredible speakers come. We're going to have literally, we're going to have this great banquet at the end. We're going to be such celebration. We're going to have changed lives. I was thinking about the T-shirts there. We've got the T-shirts. And it goes transformed. You want to come out of this conference going, that was the time I transformed. That was the time where my life changed unbelievably. But the first thing is you've got to get there and be happy about going. We've got a war room that Fang is signing everybody up for. That's just a time for everybody to pray in the war room and put all your requests before God and let everybody else pray about them too. But if before you go, James 5:16, therefore confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed. For the prayer of a righteous man is powerful and effective. Elijah was a man just like us. He prayed earnestly that it would not rain, and it did not rain on the land for 3.5 years. Again he prayed, and the heavens gave rain, and the earth produced its crops. We gave this challenge out at midweek. Go into the conference spiritual. You got sin today? Deal with it. You know, rarely does sin shock anybody. I lost it. Run away. No, I mean, that's not what people do. I got angry at my wife. Okay, all right, been there, done that. What are we going to do about it? Sin is shameful. But what's even more shameful is when we don't deal with it. We rot from the inside out. There may be a few strong words to begin with, but then you move on because we're all there trying to get each other to heaven. You know, James 5:19, my brothers, if one of you should wander from the truth and someone should bring him back, remember this, whoever turns a sinner from the error of his ways will save him from death and cover over a multitude of sins. What I just want to say about this, about bringing people back, it's great to have Esther back. I mean, it's phenomenal to have her back. It really, really is. But I also want to just talk about relationships in the church for a second. I sat there last night at Jasmine's party, and I thought about her life and, you know, all the pictures were up there. I thought, people have great struggles. Your mountain may be smaller than someone else's, but to you, it's a huge mountain. And yes, we need to disciple each other. And yes, we need to help people grow in their character to be more effective to save other people. But we also better be each other's greatest fans. Because we need to love each other in a way that the Father loves us. So, you know, we've been discipling Chris recently because he's going out to New Zealand and learning him to do lessons. He did an exceptional lesson on Saturday morning. But he stumbled over a few words, which is what he's working at. That doesn't take away from the fact of everything that he's done. That he's come out of incredible adversity in London. He self-financed himself over here. He's put himself in a vulnerable situation where his weakness is exposed to everybody. That's embarrassing. And he gets up again and again and again to deal with it. Now, Chris is the one doing it publicly. But I know a lot of you in here are doing exactly the same thing, but it's privately. Maybe your challenge isn't publicly speaking. Maybe it was coming to church and being on time. Maybe it was doing your exams. Maybe it was your finances. Maybe this. God loves you, and so do we. We are your biggest fans, and if sometimes we're not, we're sorry. Because it is really hard to be a Christian. And our goal is to help every single one of us make it to heaven. Sometimes we're the sinner that needs turning. Too often we do, and me included, look at people and go, man, you just need to do better. Sometimes it takes time for people to change. And we need to be our greatest encouragers of people in every situation. At the conference, some of us will feel overwhelmed because we'll just literally go, I don't know if I can do this because I'm hearing all these great messages. You can do it. God chose you. He created everybody to be a Christian, knowing that that is your best way to live your life. In conclusion, worldly warriors, don't be deceived. There ain't no one great out there. I have deep conviction on that. I have fellowshiped for years with the rich. It ain't pretty. It ain't pretty. You can only live in one bed. You can only sleep on one pillow. Doesn't matter if it's gold or not. When you're asleep, you don't know what's underneath your head. Spiritual warriors, make a decision to actually toughen up. Take the challenges. Prepare yourself for the real challenges in life. And seek the ultimate warrior. Have a relationship with God. Too many of us are still struggling just to get up and get time with God. That's the only difference between us and non-Christians, is tapping into the power of God to change us. Make a decision today to be a true spiritual warrior of God. Amen.